We're turning our attentions to this Saturday, where the Fianna Fáil Ard Fheis will celebrate 100 years of activity by these soldiers of destiny, with a number of party representatives from County Clare set to be in attendance. A series of events to mark the centenary also set to take place across Clare later this autumn. So to discuss all of that and the current mood among party members on the ground and what the milestone means for the organisation locally, I'm joined in studio by the former Defence Minister and Clare TD Tony Killeen and Mary Crawford, Innagh's first female chair of Fianna Fáil's Clare branch. You're both very welcome into studio. Good to see you both again. All good?
Thanks, Ellen. All good. Good morning, everyone.
Why wouldn't you be in good spirits? Mary, you're both going to be travelling to Dublin. I'm sure it'll be a rather buoyant mood, a centenary. They don't come around too often. I hear it's once every 100 years.
I think you're just about right on that one, Alan. Yes, we are going to Dublin. As it turns out, we'll both be travelling today separately. But yeah, so we should be there then for this evening for the opening of the centenary Ard Fheis. That's opening with Taoiseach. And there will be workshops this evening for a while, a short enough session, and then tomorrow's a full day. Our Corla Dáil counter and Corla counters, if you want to say, have 5 motions down for this year for the Ard Fheis. So 4 of them are tomorrow morning at 9:30. So it is important that somebody is up there, or people are there tonight really, or by 9:30 tomorrow morning, to speak to those motions.
And I want to get a sense from both of you, what does it mean that centenary mean to you personally, and particularly for you, Mary, as I mentioned, you are the first female chair of the party's Clare branch.
Well, it means a lot of things, but in terms of the fact that I'm the first female chair, that's something I almost kind of forget about, really. It's just part and package, I suppose, of who I am, except when I am reminded of it, like by yourself, or Jim O'Callaghan addressed us last night at our Corla Dáil meeting. So it's a nice honour to have, I suppose, at this point. In terms of the centenary itself, any centenary, regardless of what it is a major milestone for me. And with, say, background in other areas of centenary and commemoration, no matter which one it is a highlight. So, I'm very much looking forward to the year ahead. Centenary is technically, I suppose, tomorrow, Saturday it is, tomorrow. Events are happening already around the country, and there will be more happening as we go on. Ours won't happen until the autumn. Okay, and so I suppose that nice and you'll have more to look forward to later on in the year as well. And Tony, for you, having served as both the TD for this county and Minister for Defence, how significant is the 100-year anniversary for Fianna Fáil locally, and also nationally, but particularly locally?
When yourself and Mary were talking there, I was trying to visualise listeners, probably quite a few of them, saying, "Don't tell me he's at that whole politics stuff again." And others thinking, what people going about their business will think.
You might leave politics, but politics doesn't leave you, Tony.
Yeah, but everything is politics, really. All of the items you've had on this morning, pretty much everything in the news, pretty much everything in our daily lives is impacted by politics. And 100 years ago tomorrow, Eamon de Valera brought a crowd of people together to set up a political party. And I suppose from the perspective of that era, it can't have looked like much, I think. And there were people who were extraordinarily radical in their view of where the country ought to go. I mean, they were quite revolutionary, really. And they had a vision for Ireland that some of which has been fulfilled. Very high on the agenda of a lot of them would have been Irish reunification. And that hasn't been achieved, although developments, particularly in the UK, this week and last week and over a period.
Are you referring to Wes Streeting's fleeting meeting, after which he was tweeting at Downing Street?
Yeah, but not just that, but just the way Welsh nationalism, which I don't think we'd ever really heard of. We'd heard about Scottish nationalism being there up around the halfway mark in terms of support in Scotland, but not Welsh. And extraordinarily, what I think we're seeing in England, which is English nationalism. And that won't be lost on people in Northern Ireland, because if they're doing nationalism in Scotland, Wales and particularly in England, it has implications for Northern Ireland, and that has implications for us.
Although I do have to put it to you that you're party leader, there have been criticisms of him in terms of, I know people will commend him for the Shared Island initiative, but there are others who feel that he has softened the Republican element of Fianna Fáil, the Republican Party?
I think that's a little unfair to him. A lot of criticism of politicians is based on soundbite analysis. And these are really complex difficulties that take a lot of time to tease out. But I was sort of thinking about the people who are listening, and they'll be saying, oh God, are they 100 years old? And sure, Killeen looks like it anyway, that he's there or thereabouts. And people are probably interested in, okay, you did very well, you revolutionised education, you did all kinds of industrial developments in Lamass's time and so on and so forth.
And a lot of people would say, out of all the Taoiseach we've had, Sean Lamass stands head and shoulders above them all. They
probably would, although De Valera's initiative with the Constitution in international terms is unique. And what's extraordinary about it is that it was done at a time when fascism of the most dangerous kind was rife in Europe. And we're not too far off that at the moment either, if you look at some of what's happening. Although Hungary kind of upturned that by getting rid of their...
Yeah, Peter Magyar coming in there.
Yes, yeah. But generally speaking, you'd have to say that there's a kind of an infection of MAGA across Europe. And that's not good news for Americans, and it's certainly not good news for Ireland. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is, looking at what Fianna Fáil achieved over 100 years, most of which would have looked impossible on that Saturday in 1926, I think that there's really good reason to say these people have a role to play for the next, I don't know, if I'm lucky 10 years it'll bother me, but whatever length, into the immediate future.
Okay. I mean, and Tony has touched on it, Mary, Fianna Fáil has changed significantly over the past 100 years, and therefore so has the country. But at a local level, how do you think the party's evolved in Clare?
I'd say it has evolved in very different ways, really. When you think about the founding of the party, there was a really strident effort at that time by Eamon de Valera that you would have a very strong grassroots movement and to engage all of the people insofar as it was possible on the ground in very different circumstances to the circumstances we have now, of course. No social media, no nothing like that. So it was very driven in that way. Over from an organisational point of view, I suppose, things have changed. Our whole structure, our social outlook, political outlook has changed over that 100 years. So you haven't the same commitment, I feel, to any one thing. But we take political party, and I know this is across a number of political parties. People will go out and vote and they will support candidates, certainly when it comes to election. But particularly since COVID, I think you don't have the same need within people to meet, to be engaged at a level that they would have been prior to that. That's my sense of it. I know too the social media has hugely changed how people look at things. So in that way, there has been an evolution which you wouldn't maybe have anticipated. We might have hoped that it would be the opposite. Now, I have to say, in terms of this county, we're very fortunate of late that we've started again to regenerate from the ground up, and we are getting tremendous support, really, I have to say. And I think our centenary commemorations will be testament to that, because we're going to recognise everybody who was elected since 1926. And we have in the region of 220 people to be recognised. Some, like the former minister who is here on my right and who has been very supportive and helpful in this exercise that we were doing to identify the people and now and speak to their families and so on. So that will bring hopefully a new enthusiasm back in, I hope, into the party.
And speaking of new enthusiasm, my thoughts, and I'm sure yours, turn to the youth, Tony. And do you have a sense of, are enough young people energised and engaged by Fianna Fáil that they're joining the party, certainly locally? Well, I think of some of the local councillors, Dave Griffin and also Rachel Hartigan, very, very young, in their 20s. Are they outliers, or are you seeing people of their age cohorts, early, mid-20s, being attracted to what Fianna Fáil stands for and what it has to offer, not just them and their life, but also the country?
Historically, there have been relatively few people who've been interested in politics across the entire realm of politics. And I think we've been fortunate that we've attracted, in the main, good quality people. But of course, when you have a party as big as Fianna Fáil, or indeed Fine Gael, or pretty much every party, I suppose, for that matter, you know, you're going to have some people who will make headlines for the wrong reason. And that
you've given me a brilliant segue for just a few moments' time.
I know you're going to do it. I just know you're going to do it. So I might as well set up the runway for you. Yeah. But you know, and very often I think, you know, if you're not very interested in politics, you become very interested, maybe for two reasons. First of all, because your interests, I mean, your well-being or whatever, is impacted by political decisions. Of course, it is all the time, but you notice it when it pinches somewhat. So then that gets people all interested and involved, and we've seen that very recently. And when people get involved in kind of protesty stuff, they don't tend to look at the main parties. And then you have other people who think a bit about the kind of society that they want to live in. And I would think, now Mary would be more familiar because she's been involved in education more recently than I have, I mean in the classroom sense anyway, and I have a sense that the kind of education that we've developed, which is hugely different from what it was when I went to school, and quite different from what it was when I was still teaching even, and I would think that prompts people to have, or should prompt a lot of people anyway, to have an interest in how a country is run and how decisions are made and how the best opportunities provided for people. But what you actually find when you're at the coalface is the really worthy things that you do, and I'll pick out one example because it's kind of a simple one, which is an effort to address child poverty. And there were 7 or 8 elements to it, but one of the elements was to provide free lunches for school children. And of course, like every brilliant idea, it's much easier to announce it and to start it than to complete it. All kinds of logistical issues arise. But I was in a primary school about a fortnight ago, and I was asked to meet the school council. Nowadays, there's this representative council for the students, not just in secondary school and university, but in primary schools. And I was very interested, my second time meeting them actually, to what they'd say, and they had really good ideas. And one boy said to me, you know, we'd really like to see this done, but we realise it would cost a lot of money and it'd be very difficult to do. As it turns out, luckily it's going to happen, but I didn't say that then because I wasn't sure. But I asked them what they thought about school lunches, and it was extraordinarily positive. And I thought to myself, you know, sometimes you'd think that if you're listening to, especially social media, and maybe certain kinds of programmes on radio or television, that this schools meals thing is a disaster. But actually, the people who are the beneficiaries, by and large, are very appreciative of it, and the impact.
Certainly not a disaster, but I think you touched on it earlier on, and I'm thinking of, you know, it's been, my own kids, it's been great, but you know, there are quite a few occasions when a lot of it's coming back uneaten. There are kinks to be ironed out. Yeah,
but the point I'm making is really, it's a very good thing politically to address child poverty. You do it in little steps. This is one of the steps. I would have thought from outside looking in at the reaction to it, pretty negative reaction, but then the impact, of course, is very positive. And that's the nature of politics. And I think it's one of the things that makes it unattractive to people who are very concerned about the future. Because they say, sure, no matter what you do, half of them will be given out about it. And it might only work, it'll be costing a fortune. You'll be stuck with it forever, costing money. And maybe it won't have the positive impact that you thought. And that, it's kind of a roundabout way to answer your question by saying, young people are interested in the theory and to some extent the practice when it impacts them, and that's true of adults as well, of course, but there aren't a lot of people that are prepared to do the slog.
Okay, you did a few moments ago set up a ramp there for me, a runway, and haven't forgotten. Even as I said, the politics never leaves you. Mary, we have to touch on former party leader, indeed former 3-time Taoiseach, Bertie Ahern's comments on immigration made in that video which circulated on social media in relation to Africans and Muslims. The comments that he made. Now, plenty of people have been out criticising those. Our Ireland South Fianna Fáil MEP Centenary said he should apologise. Your deputy leader Jack Chambers said his comments totally wrong and inappropriate. He says Ireland's the country it is today because of the diversity of the people who've come here, and that Bertie Ahern wasn't reflecting Fianna Fáil's value of people who've come to the country and the contribution they've made. Now, there have been people who've defended what he has said. I suppose I want to ask you what you made of his comments and whether you feel despite the protestations and condemnation from people within your party and outside, will there be any residual damage for Fianna Fáil because he is so widely associated with the party, even if not involved to the extent he was many years ago?
It's really difficult to answer that in a way. It's hard to know whether there will be residual damage or not. But if you look at social media, which I did as a result of this video clip, I was astounded. I would say that 90% on Facebook of people who commented were entirely supportive of what Bertie Ahern had said. And many of them would have said at the outset, I never voted for Bertie Ahern, but wouldn't vote for Bertie Ahern, wouldn't vote for Fianna Fáil, but he is saying what people are thinking.
I suppose when you think of social media, though, that does have, carry a health warning in terms of some people are more prevalent on social media than others, and you've mentioned the kind of echo chamber element of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with you, but I was just articulating what I saw. However, I suppose it would be entirely wiser for him not to have made those comments, and I don't know whether he was pressurised a bit at the door. I got the sense maybe that he didn't know where things were going.
He was out canvassing with a by-election candidate.
So it was difficult to know. It's difficult to know how to field those things, I guess. And he's probably doing his best to try and, be in the middle ground somewhere when he's at the door talking to whoever it is. So it was clear that the woman was very, very able, and I'm very glad at least that he did say to her at the end, or before she disclosed who she was, that perhaps you might consider joining a political party, because it would be very valuable. She did identify so many issues that arise, which of course need to be addressed. So in terms of Bertie, I suppose he would have been certainly wiser not to have said that. But then on the other hand, of course, that's Bertie. That's another side of it. And
you could face criticism if someone's asking you direct questions and you're not answering them at all. And Tony, as Mary says, I suppose we'll leave aside whether there's any residual negative impact for Fianna Fáil, because you don't have a crystal ball. But, Bertie Ahern did say subsequently he's no problem with people who come to Ireland through visa and asylum systems. And as Mary said, there are certainly some people who are supportive of what he had to say, and maybe they feel he's addressing a point that some people just don't want to talk about. But there were others say that the fact that he was highlighting Africans and Muslims but saying Ireland should be accepting Ukrainians, that also there's a kind of a certainly distasteful element to that.
Yeah, it'll be very hard to improve on Mary's answer there now. But of course I know Bertie well and served with him for years and years and years, and he does do that stream of consciousness thing. I mean, he used to do that in the Dáil on leaders' questions on a Tuesday.
Stream of consciousness is very dangerous when you're a prominent politician. I know he's not he's prominent now, but not a politician. But you can walk yourself into a lot of trouble.
And I'm sure Bertie has learned along the way that his achievements in relation to peace in Northern Ireland, and particularly in relation to industrial peace in Ireland long before that, will never be mentioned, and that he's going to step a quarter of an inch out of line when he'll be hung out to dry. And I suppose
he's clarified what he has since said, and he talked about the context in which it was said. But do you think he should apologise for what he said?
I don't think apologising would make much difference. I do think he should explain, and I've heard some of his explanations which are reasonable. And of course I know exactly what it's like to be on your 100th door being asked all kinds of questions by the people who engage. A lot of people don't engage. They're polite and they let you off and you don't know where you stand. And occasionally you meet somebody who has a ton of issues and you have to try to address as many of them as you can. And I suppose if you knew that you were being recorded, you'd do it as if I was talking to you. But if you don't know you're being recorded, I'd do it as if I was talking to Mary, and have no idea that it would come out as awkwardly or as ill worded as it turned out to be.
Okay.
And if you kind of break it down, there are elements of what he said that should give us cause for pause and thought, but you wouldn't be saying them the way Bertie said them.
No. No, we'll see how long this rumbles on for. Before I let you both go, I do want to finish. We were talking there about a former party leader. Let's talk about the current party leader, because I think the last time you were both with me, we did just discuss his future, and obviously in the aftermath of the fuel protest there was a lot of talk around Micheál Martin and how long he would survive as party leader. He's proven to be quite resilient, second longest serving party leader after Eamon de Valera, lasting longer than Bertie himself. Mary, has the I suppose the question marks over Micheál Martin's leadership of the party subsided? If so, is that long term, or is it just for now? Will it take the next controversy, no matter how big or small, for those question marks and rumblings within the party to rear their head again?
But that's it, isn't it? When there is a controversy, of course, that's when you're looking for someone's head, and it happened to be Micheál Martin's. He seems to be doing extremely well in terms at the moment, and particularly in terms of Europe and preparing for the EU presidency and so on. Which are
are nearer than the next general election, which is some time away. Is it harder to see him still being there and leading the party into that general election?
It's really difficult to know. But I would have to say one thing. I don't know how many potential leaders are out there. But we had the Minister for Justice addressing us last night. I have no idea what his ambitions are. But I have to say, if you're looking at potential leaders, I've honestly been so impressed by him. He's a really inspirational leader, I'm going to say, person. So there are people there. Whenever Micheál wants to move sideways, I would say there would be plenty capable people.
OK, time very much against us. So I'll give a final brief word to you, Tony. You can give a politician's answer if you like, but not a politician's length answer.
Yeah, sure, politics is so boring. I don't blame people for wanting to have leaders in their crosshairs occasionally. And when it is boring, we all of us turn to looking to get rid of somebody. And it happened to me.
Do you think it's all quiet on the Western Front for a very short term? But it's gonna...
I think that issues will be looked at very closely next February or March.
Okay. There we go. I think it kind of killed him to finish that soon, but we do appreciate it. My thanks to the former Defence Minister and Clare TD, Tony Killeen, and the first female chair of Fianna Fáil's Clare branch, Mary Crawford. Folks, thanks very much for being with me on the show.